Hello, my name is Tacky Slappy. I am the author and I guess also a reader of RMK, which is what this is called. This story of mine is short for Ronnie McKitty, but that's not important. So yeah, before I won't take too much of your time with the pre-chapter notes, but just something to keep in mind is that ideally the way we do this is like I guess you're probably on Royal Road or something, you have it pulled up, you just read along as I read it out loud, so it's like this multi-sensory experience, maybe. I don't know, but I'm just trying stuff, so. Well, I've wasted 40 seconds already. All right, let's just get into it. Chapter 1, I'll talk more after the chapter. Chapter 1, what was it called? An Unfamiliar Room. Just as he was reaching into his pantry for a snack, Ronnie McKitty found himself in an unfamiliar room. Moonlight filtered in through a small, glassless window, and with that light came a near-frigid draft. Aside from a big pile of straw in a corner, a quilt on top of it, and some unlit candles on a low table, the room was unfurnished. The walls, floor, and ceiling were built from wooden planks, and there was no evidence that the room had ever seen drywall, or anything resembling it. Ronnie frowned, unsure of what to make of the shift. What in the world? I was just in the kitchen, or at least I thought I was. Hoping the surroundings would provide some answers, he glanced out the window. What he saw only served to confuse him more. There was an empty cobblestone street and a bunch of small wooden houses along it. They were tall, narrow, and clustered together in neat rows. Behind the seemingly endless rows, there was a wall. It, too, was mostly made from wood, but huge stone bricks were also used in the structure. The barrier was far grander than any wall he'd ever seen, and it towered over the surrounding buildings with ease. Ronnie stood there, gazing at the scenery. At any second, he expected to snap out of whatever hallucination he was having, but as the seconds passed, a sinking feeling set in. Holy shit, is this real? If that's the case, where am I? And why is it night? He checked his watch. It was almost 10 in the morning. It's summer, for God's sake. It should have gotten bright hours ago. And why is it so cold? I'm freezing. What the hell is going on right now? Out of habit, he pulled out his phone. No signal. He tried opening some apps, and everything other than reception worked as usual. No reception in downtown Atlanta? How is that even possible? He checked to see if someone had removed his SIM card. It was still there. Well, where am I then? The countryside? Since when did rednecks start living behind 15-story walls? And how is it even possible to build something that large with wood in the first place? And most importantly, how did I even get here? He searched the room for a clue, but found nothing. No cryptic message from a serial killer, no welcome letter from a secret society organization, nothing but an empty wooden room. He sat himself down against the wall, taking deep breaths in an attempt to stay calm. Everything had happened so suddenly, without warning, and it just didn't feel real. He realized it wasn't a dream, but desperately wished it was. After a few minutes of pointlessly fumbling around with his phone, Ronnie picked himself back up to his feet. Well, wherever I am, sitting around won't get me home. He decided to leave the room and explore, as that was the only option he saw. Unsure of what to expect, he turned the handle. After a loud, violent squeal from the hinges, the door opened to reveal a short hallway with a closed door along it and a stairwell at the end. After making sure the path was clear, he started toward the stairs. The planks under him creaked in protest no matter how cautiously he traversed them. Just as he reached the staircase, the closed door behind him burst open. From it came a mostly undressed man armed with an unreasonably large axe. Seeing the intruder, the man brought his tool back up to his chest. He was poised to strike. "What are you doing in my house?" The man shouted in an accent that bore no semblance to anything Ronnie had ever heard before. "I don't know." Ronnie, frightened by the weapon, took a step back. Unfortunately for him, he'd backpedaled into the staircase and tripped. The stairs, made from the same bare hardwood as everything else, were like baseball bats on his back. The stairs weren't long, but they were steep, and it felt as though multiple bones had been broken by the time Ronnie reached the bottom. His wounds hurt more than anything he'd ever experienced, but somehow they were the least of his problems. The man hurried down the stairs and rushed him with the axe. Too injured to get away in time, all Ronnie could do was watch. His eyes shot open as he felt the enormous blade split his belly in half. The pain was blinding, and it only got worse. As the man pulled out his axe, blood began to gush forth into a puddle beneath his back. The man, not thinking anymore, struck again, in the neck, right through an artery. Blood sprayed out even more violently than it had before, and some even got into the man's eyes. With the assault disrupted, the man came back to his senses and took a few steps away, bewildered at the gruesome mess he'd made. That left Ronnie alone on the ground. I'm about to die, aren't I? Understanding that there was nothing he could do to save himself, a pleasant serenity swept through his body. So this is it? Alone in a stranger's house? He couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity. 10 at 30. Is this really it? I don't even know how I got here. Oh well. Can't do anything about it now. I guess it was a good run. With that last thought, Ronnie drew his last breath. A disembodied voice spoke. Wiseman's vassal, activated. Ronnie's eyes burst open. Somehow he was in the same wooden room as before. It was a little brighter than the first time he'd been there, but the sun still had yet to rise. Confused, he took his hand to his neck. It was uninjured. His belly was the same. Was it a dream after all? Hearing voices from below answered the question. It was muffled through the floor, but he could hear two people talking. Jinjo, what is this? The woman was astonished and spoke in an unfamiliar accent. A robber. He broke in last night. Ronnie's hair stood up upon recognizing the man's voice. It was the man who'd slain him. And you killed him? What would you have done? He had a weapon, and the way he was dressed, he was probably an assassin. We're too poor to have assassins coming after us, dear. She sounded impatient, but not angry. And what weapon? I don't see one. This thing! The woman relaxed somewhat after seeing what the man had given her. What in the world? What is this? It's like a mirror. Ronnie realized they were talking about his phone. He also realized that he was naked. Pressed down on the glossy side. Oh goodness, this is the most realistic painting I've ever seen. She was referring to his lock screen's wallpaper, an old picture of his dog. Is it glowing? What is this thing? A weapon, no doubt. We're lucky I didn't give him the chance to use it. You think this is a weapon? Well, what else would it be? This has got to be one of the most unique magical artifacts in the world. We might be able to sell this to some rich jackass in Technar and strike it rich. I just wonder why this guy had something like this. Well, who cares? The questioning stopped as soon as money was mentioned. I'll get the corpse collector to come by and take this guy. We certainly don't want him going undead. You should take the day off and go to the guild hall for an appraisal. We're finally going to be rich. But what about the king's announcement? We can just ask the neighbors about it. We've got more pressing concerns right now. The two ate breakfast and went back upstairs to get dressed. Fearing the man, Ronnie held his breath as well as he could while they were up there with him. After getting ready, they left the house. Finally, having waited a while to make sure they were gone for real, Ronnie decided it was safe to leave the room once again. Getting up was hard. Every part of his body felt like lead, and just a few steps into the hallway he had to stop and lean against the wall to catch his breath. He went down the stairs, carefully this time, and when he reached the bottom, he nearly fainted. It was him, eyes wide open. His wound still oozed blood. A perfect replica laid there gazing at the ceiling. Ronnie felt the urge to vomit. The clothes on his corpse were bloodstained beyond repair, and all of his possessions had been stolen. As hard as it was to accept, his corpse confirmed that everything he remembered happening really had occurred. He had actually died and come back to life. Wiseman's vassal. That's what the voice said right before I came back to life. Whose voice was that? And who is Wiseman? His complete lack of answers almost brought him to tears. I'm supposed to be playing video games on the couch right now. I'm not supposed to be here, so why am I here? There were so many things happening at once, and it was just too much for him to handle. More than anything else, he just wanted to go home and forget everything. Ronnie spent a long time curled up alone on that cold, hard floor. Eventually, he remembered that the woman had mentioned something about getting someone to come for his body. If he didn't get out of the house in time, he realized that he might be found, and as pathetic as he felt, fear of a second death brought him to his feet. Still naked, Ronnie went back up the stairs, and when he reached the top, he had to stop and regain his breath. He'd been in decent shape before, so the sudden shift in fitness was jarring. Regardless of the fatigue, he made it to the couple's bedroom. Inside, there was a large straw mattress, some chairs, and a dresser. Another glassless window lit the room. The most obvious order of business was clothes. He opened the dresser and stole what looked to be some sort of tunic. It was made from an old, hole-ridden fabric and reached all the way to his knees. He also took a wool jacket, some trousers, and a pair of leather boots. workingman's attire, by the look of it. A wide-brimmed hat that he hoped would hide his face completed the ensemble. Seeing that the couple living there didn't own many clothes, Ronnie couldn't help but feel a little satisfied knowing that the garments would be missed. I don't care how poor they are when they're literally murderers. They deserve this. He went back down the stairs and, like before, felt tired afterwards. There was no doubt in his mind that dying had somehow affected his health. In search for valuables, Ronnie found the couple's kitchen. It was an archaic little place with this sink missing entirely, and the stove was just simply a pot over firewood. His attention turned to a small row of shelves on the wall. Despite being nauseous from the presence of his corpse just a few feet away, he was famished. Ronnie took a loaf of bread and ate it. The taste and texture were that of a rock, but it was better than nothing. He stole a few more loaves and stuffed them down under his jacket for later use. Before leaving, he found a small knife. It was the kind of thing that might have been used for skinning potatoes or chopping onions, and it wasn't very sharp, nor was it long. But he took it anyways. Better than nothing. Ronnie did one last check for anything useful, but after finding nothing, he approached the door. On the way out, he stared at his dead body. Well, alright, that's the first chapter of Ronnie McKitty done. Or RMK, I guess, is what I'm calling it now. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's portal fantasy, lit RPG, game lit world thing, and it's gonna be good. What do I have to say? Probably have something to say. Oh yeah, I guess tell me what you think. How did I read it? Was that good? I know there might have been some background noise or some like inconsistent audio sound because there is a storm outside at the time of recording this. Probably can't hear because I've probably gone in and tried to treat the audio a little bit, but maybe you still can. I don't know. Yeah, I hope you liked it. I'll make a... Yeah, actually I have nothing else to say. I guess if I do think of something to say, I'll just put it in the description for the video or maybe the post-chapter notes on Royal Road, which is where it's probably going to be. Yeah, so goodbye. Have a good day. Peace.